My name is Valora Keene, 33 years old. The courtroom feels like a held breath. Old wood and quiet light, a chamber tuned to catch every word and weigh it. Judge Avery's profile is cut in silver by the high windows. His pen waits like a metronome that won't start until we do. Across from me, Mother, Celeste, freshens her coral lipstick, the exact shade she wore in the only birthday photo she ever sent me. Father, Gavin, straightens a tie that has never once leaned over my homework or a hospital bed. Dale, their attorney, moves with the practiced confidence of a man who believes volume can substitute for truth. Amelia sits at my right, one calming palm on my wrist, the pulse point where panic announces itself. Her voice is a warm Georgia lilt wrapped around a steel line. Opening statements, Judge Avery says, and the gavel's tap is a pulse returning. Dale buttons his jacket. Your Honor, this is simple. He gestures without looking at me. A respected jurist, Judge Franklin Cole, fell prey in his declining years to the undue influence of his granddaughter, the defendant. A substantial estate diverted away from his only living child, Celeste Wright, and her husband Gavin, who would rightly inherit under normal circumstances. His words slice the air cleanly, designed to make a story out of bloodlines and pity. I steady my breathing the way Franklin taught me when I was 17 and terrified before a school debate. In, hold, out. On the hold, I see the porch swing, his Sunday cufflinks catching the late sun. On the exhale, I see June in the kitchen, her hibiscus flourishing in a riot of red, her hands dusted with flour. Amelia rises without a hurry. Your Honor, the plaintiff's story omits 3 decades of documented history. She advances one measured step. Judge Cole changed his will 10 years ago when his cognitive faculties were unquestionably intact. You'll hear from his physician. You'll see the evaluations. You'll read the journals. She lets the quiet gather. Most importantly, you'll see who stayed. The plaintiffs abandoned my client when she was 4 months old. Franklin and June Cole became parents in every way but biological. She glances at me, brief, anchoring. This case isn't about manipulation. It's about recognizing the true definition of family, those who stay. Stay. The syllable settles like a small stone on still water, and then the ripples reach everything. I keep my gaze forward, away from the parents who never came to one school play, one fevered night, one graduation. Away from the camera-perfect coral smile and the tie that knows hotels better than my home. Amelia sits, and the soft brush of her sleeve says, breathe. On our table, the manila folders stack like quiet fortunes. June's journals, 30 years of faithful handwriting, phone logs with highlighted calls, bank records that show 22 years of monthly transfers, a leather binder that holds Franklin's last letter, written in the steady script that had once annotated Supreme Court opinions in the margins of a newspaper. Judge Avery nods to Dale. He launches into exhibits and innuendo. He wants suggestion to feel like evidence, repetition to feel like proof. He wants the court to think time erased Franklin's clarity, the way the ocean skims a sandcastle flat. My molars ache. Franklin debated constitutional law over pot roast the week before his heart failed. He corrected my cross-examination syntax the Sunday before that. Amelia's fingers tap once on the tabletop, our small signal. Trust the prep. When she stands, she carries the weight of the last 32 years as if it were a violin and she a concert master, careful, knowing where the notes go. Your Honor, she says, these are June Cole's journals. She opens the binder to a flagged page. December 18th, 1998. Celeste promised a visit for Christmas. Bought Valora the red bicycle in case her mother asks what she'd like. Wrapped Celeste's gift too. 4th Christmas she's missed. The gallery rustles, the sound of people remembering their own promises, kept or not. The next folder clicks open. Phone logs. Calls to Mr. Wright regarding school events, medical emergencies, graduations, no returns, Amelia says, and the highlighted lines glow yellow even in the courtroom's dim. A photo album lands on the evidence table with a soft thud. Kindergarten, middle school honor roll, high school valedictorian address, law school commencement. In every image, Franklin and June are there, a steady horizon line. In none of them do my parents appear. Absence has a face. It looks like this. We break for a short recess. In the courtyard, the hibiscus Franklin transplanted from June's kitchen pot, to the courthouse garden burns red against pale limestone, life insisting on itself. I touch a petal. The texture drags me backward. Flour on fingers, lemon zest under nails, June's voice. Baking is precision and patience, just like life, Valora. If you stir too hard, you ruin the air you work to fold in. She said it without bitterness, even the day she wrote Fourth Christmas She's Missed. The phone in my blazer pocket has been gnawing at my ribs all morning. It's filled with strangers' voices parroting an article Celeste gave the paper, how I systematically alienated her father. You should be ashamed, one man had said before hanging up. Shame is a door I closed years ago, because it only ever opened in one direction, and all it led to was freezing hallways. Back inside, the air feels denser, like it has learned something. Amelia's next exhibits are numbers, cold and clean. Bank records confirm monthly transfers to the plaintiffs for 22 years, she says. $3,200 per month. $845,000 total. Dale frowns as if arithmetic were slander. Additionally, Your Honor, the will change occurred 10 years ago, while June was still alive, and after Franklin's physician confirmed sharp cognitive function. He asked to proceed with evidence of deterioration, as if will and love were the first faculties to go. I feel a tension line hum through my jaw. Franklin's handwriting didn't waver until the very last envelope. In the pew behind, a neighbor from our street sits with a hand pressed to her mouth like a witness to a private vow. When Martha, our housekeeper of 25 years, takes the stand, she carries Sunday evenings in the way she folds her hands. Every Sunday, she says, Miss Valora made pot roast and set June's china, even during law school exams, even after she moved out. Dale tries to cross. Martha does not bend. Judge Cole made his own decisions until the day he passed. Miss Valora respected his wishes. Objection. Denied. Observed behavior. Facts. For a moment, a flicker of heat climbs my spine. The recognition that truth, when it finally gets a turn at the mic, doesn't need choreography. It stands upright on its own bones. Mother dabs at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, where the coal crest, 3 oak leaves, sits like an ironic witness. Father whispers into her shoulder, and she doesn't turn. Somewhere between them is a strategy labeled blood, as if lineage were a legal doctrine rather than a biological fact. On the walk back from the water fountain, I catch a fragment of my father's voice, tight and low. You push this too far, Celeste. She answers with the soft threat of someone used to rooms bending toward her. Thomas said he could. She stops when she sees me. The rest of the sentence follows them around the corner like a shadow. Thomas. File the name where I keep my warnings. When court resumes, Dale tries to enlarge a phantom. We have testimony suggesting confusion. He repeats the word until it feels worn. Confusion. Confusion. As if a noun could wish a memory away. Judge Avery's pen scratches, an even sound that neither hurries nor forgives. Amelia slides a leather folder to me. Inside is Franklin's letter, ink precise as ever. It begins with my name, and something in my chest loosens and then steadies. Ethics aren't situational, he once wrote inside another notebook. They're the foundation upon which justice stands. If a foundation holds, you don't jackhammer it because someone else wants the view. Outside, a cloud passes the sun. The light in the room shifts to the blue that used to wash over the porch swing on late Sundays. I can almost hear Franklin. Justice isn't revenge, Valora. It's the restoration of truth. I breathe that in, let it thread through my posture. When Amelia asks, You okay? I nod. Ready. Across the aisle, Celeste meets my eyes for the first time. There is something like calculation there, and something like fear. The moment before a person decides whether they will perform or confess. She chooses performance. She always has. But there's a crack at the edge of her mouth where the smile won't quite hold. Amelia rises again, and the room leans in. Your Honor, she says, will next address medical records and care history. Dale shifts, the smallest flinch. Somewhere, a cousin reads a text and starts to sweat. I don't know his name yet, but I will. Some truths arrive like thunder. Others arrive like a single middle finger pushing a pair of glasses up the bridge of a nose. The judge nods. The pen taps twice, and the air resets to that tuned, listening quiet that makes a person decide who they are when the hallway voices fade. I square my shoulders the way Franklin did before delivering a verdict. Presence over performance, truth over peace. I'm my grandparents' child, and the people who stayed taught me how to stay. The rest of this will be evidence. The first exhibit Amelia lays on the rail is not loud, no smoking gun, no gasp-inducing confession, but the quiet handwriting of a woman who tended both gardens and people with the same patience. June's journals. 30 years of blue ink on cream paper, dates neat in the margins. Amelia opens to the flagged winter. December 18th, 1998, she reads, voice low enough that the room edges toward her to hear. Celeste promised a visit for Christmas. Bought Valora the red bicycle in case her mother asks what she'd like. Wrapped Celeste's gift too. Fourth Christmas she's missed. The sentence settles, heavier than any accusation. It is not anger, it is record. Dale objects, belated and brittle, hearsay by another name, but the judge only shakes his head. Contemporaneous documentation, admitted. The words feel like a hand pressed gently to my shoulder blade, guiding me to stand straight. Next comes the arithmetic of absence. Bank transfers, month after dependable month, $3,200 for 22 years, the sum typed stark at the bottom, $845,000. No editorial, no flourish. Amelia lets the numbers sit under the courtroom's light until they do what numbers do, strip pretense. Judge Cole did not abandon his daughter, she says. He funded her choices. Dale's jaw ticks, and for the first time he looks like a man who has discovered the stage lighting does not love him back. Amelia moves through the file tree she's memorized. Phone logs, a highlighter river of calls to my father that never found shore, calendars inked with recitals, school plays, missed holidays, photographs where presence is a body, not a promise. The album snaps shut gently, like a book lowered after a prayer. We break. The hallway swells with sound, the hive of a building that has learned to carry strangers' grief without collapsing under it. I step into the courtyard where hibiscus punch against limestone like red punctuation. I touch a bloom and hear June again. Fold, don't stir. If you stir too hard, you ruin the air, she'd say, pulling the bowl toward me, making circles with the spatula that felt like a secret handshake with patience. Life is the same, Valora. Let what is good keep its volume. My phone vibrates where I forgot to silence it. Unknown numbers again. I allow one to roll to voicemail, then another. On the third, a voice splinters into my ear. You stole from your own mother. The line clicks dead. It is amazing how quickly a stranger's certainty will try to rent a room in your skull. I put the phone back like placing a glass in a sink and watch sunlight move along a crack in the stone. If shame knocks, I will not answer. The lease was canceled long ago. When we reconvene, Amelia calls witnesses who have known me longer than some truths stay fashionable. Doris from the clerk's office describes Franklin's memory like a silver thread, unbroken, tensile, up until his last week. Dr. Simmons' affidavit comes in through stipulation. Cognitive function sharp, recall excellent, decision-making intact. Dale frowns theatrically, but cannot cross-examine paper that has already been born, named, and notarized. Then Martha takes the stand, her bun precise as ever. Every Sunday, she says, and the words are so familiar my throat tightens. 6 o'clock sharp, pot roast, June's good china, classical on the radio. After June passed, Miss Valora brought the lemon poppy seed cake. Dale tries to edge her into opinion, but Martha's spine is made of the same material as old pews, varnished by repetition, impossible to bend. Judge Cole made his own choices, she says, and the room understands that some sentences are built like doors that close with a click you cannot pick. Gavin, my father, answers questions like he's trying to talk a locked gate open with compliments. Where did Valora attend law school? He guesses wrong. Has he ever visited my home, the one they are suing for? No. Has he attended any graduation? Silence elongates until the judge's pen scratches it shorter. Celeste stares at the middle distance, working her jaw as if her teeth could grind documents to dust. By noon, the courthouse cafeteria smells like coffee and resignation. Amelia and I take a table by the window. She slides a fresh manila folder across the plastic like a chess player, laying down a queen with a soft thud. "The Post is running Mother's interview," she says, almost gently. "This afternoon." My stomach does the small revolt it learned to do in adolescence. "We can't gag a newspaper," Amelia adds, "but we can make sure evidence beats theater." We're walking back past the newsstand when I see it anyway, my mother's face printed with tragic restraint under a headline about legacy, torn in two. I do not need to read to know the script. I buy the paper. I read it all, the omissions, the slant, the calculated chronology that makes absence look like exile. My office voicemail fills while I stand there. I put the paper down. I am not here to manage anyone's narrative but my own. In the afternoon, Amelia opens a leather binder and the air changes temperature. The will. 10 years old. Signatures clear. June's name a steady companion beside Franklin's. Executed while Mrs. Cole was living, Amelia notes, and after medical clearance. She does not glance at Celeste when she says it. She does not need to. Dale tries to shift the frame to confusion, the word he has been polishing all day, hoping it will reflect something that is not there. He announces that he will call medical witnesses, plural, later in the week. The way he savors the S makes me think of a wedge slid into a log, tapped lightly first, then harder, then with both hands. Somewhere, a cousin bears a last name that will appear in a minute. Somewhere, a doctor adjusts his glasses with his middle finger instead of his index, a nervous habit I once catalogued without knowing why. On our table, Franklin's letter warms under my palm through the leather. I don't read it now. I know the cadence of its sentences, the way you know your address, but I feel steadiness radiate like heat through winter gloves. Ethics aren't situational. He had written it in a different notebook years earlier and then lived it so hard, the sentence became furniture you bump into and bruise but never move. We adjourn late. Outside, Charleston's light folds itself between live oaks like a shawl thrown over shoulders. The walk to my car takes me past people who have been watching and past people who will pretend they were there when the story is told at dinner. In the rear view, I catch my own eyes and see June's. Practical, exacting, suspicious of shortcuts. At home, the Post and Courier lands on the front step with a thud I feel in my ribs. The paper belongs to my mother this time, her face framed to suggest endurance. I carry it inside like a wet umbrella, careful but not reverent, and lay it beside Franklin's fountain pen on my desk. The voicemail light blinks as if it could pulse through wood. I don't press play. Instead, I open June's gardening journal. Beside a sketch of hibiscus, she wrote, "Hibiscus survive winter when everything appears dead. The strongest flowers emerge from the coldest winters. Remember this, Valora." I close my eyes and imagine red against frost. The phone rings again. I let it. On the bookshelf, Franklin's legal volumes, their margins carrying penciled thoughts he never bothered to erase. I pull one at random, a line about restoration underlined twice. Justice isn't revenge. It's the restoration of truth. The sentence threads itself with the one I have been holding all day, presence over blood. When I set the book back, the motion steadies the air around me. I make lemon poppy seed batter because there are nights when you keep your hands busy, so your mind can do its better work. Fold, don't stir. I zest the lemon until the skin flashes pith, and the kitchen smells like memory cleaned of sentimentality. Bright, astringent, exact. While the cake rises, I sit at the table with a legal pad and write 3 names. Simmons, Reynolds, Barrett? The last one is a question because nothing in our disclosures wears it yet. Underneath, I write another name that isn't a doctor. Thomas. I circle it once. Cousin. Practice partner. Pressure point. I draw a line from Thomas to confusion and from confusion to sedative. A thread forms. It hums faintly like a wire in a wall. The oven timer dings. I pull the pan, set it on a rack, and watch steam halo the air. My phone lights with another unknown number, and for once I answer. A woman from church. Her voice quivers. "They put your mother on the front page," she says, apology and accusation braided together. People are talking. They always have, I say softly. They will until something truer gives them a better story. Before bed, I lay out tomorrow's suit, the charcoal one that holds its shape when hands shake. I tuck June's journal into my bag and Franklin's letter into the inner pocket like a passport. At the door, I glance at the mirror and decide not to practice any expression. Truth does not need rehearsal. It will meet me in the morning. In the dark, the phone finally stops ringing. The house takes a deep breath with me. Somewhere, a cousin reads a text, deletes a thread, and makes a call. He will regret. Somewhere, a doctor rehearses his answers in front of a bathroom mirror, middle finger nudging glasses up, a tell he cannot unlearn. I turn out the light. Precision and patience. Fold, don't stir. Tomorrow, we will thread the needle in open court. Morning arrives blue and exact, the kind of light Charleston saves for verdict days and baptisms. I iron my blouse myself, Amelia offered, Martha insisted, but control is a small comfort. The courthouse corridors hum with coffee and nerves. The brass fixtures gleam like they know how many secrets have passed beneath them. Martha meets me outside the courtroom, a paper cup in hand. Pot roast tonight, she says, as if reminding me there is life beyond transcripts. You'll need to eat something real, her voice steadies me more than caffeine ever could. Yes, ma'am, I say, and she nods once, satisfied, before disappearing toward the gallery. Inside, the air sharpens. Dale is already there, whispering to Celeste, whose hand flutters near her pearls like a nervous bird. Gavin checks his watch, a performance of impatience. Judge Avery enters. We stand, then sit. His gavel sounds like punctuation at the end of a very long sentence. Amelia begins with what she calls the unshakable. Doris Taylor takes the stand first, a court clerk with a spine straightened by 30 years of benches. She testifies to Franklin's clarity, how he reviewed appellate opinions days before his death, how he corrected a junior judge's citations without notes. He was sharper than the rest of us put together, she says, eyes bright with the memory. Dale offers no cross. He knows better than to quarrel with the familiar. Next comes Dr. Harold Simmons, Franklin's longtime physician. His gray hair is trimmed to military precision, his words even more disciplined. No sign of cognitive decline, he says, reading from his last report. In fact, he was planning a lecture series on ethics in judicial practice. Dale attempts to plant doubt. Doctor, is it possible subtle confusion could escape detection? Simmons lifts his gaze. Possible? Perhaps? Present? No. The answer lands like a door shutting softly but irrevocably. When Martha's turn arrives, I brace myself. She walks as if the floor remembers her weight, settles into the witness chair, and folds her hands in her lap. Amelia smiles. Martha, how long did you work for Judge and Mrs. Cole? 30 years. And during that time, did you observe their relationship with Valora? I raised that child beside them. The courtroom shifts, something collective and quiet. Every Sunday, she continues, she came home. After June passed, she still came. Never missed a meal. Dale stands. Did Miss Keene ever prevent others from visiting Judge Cole? No, sir, Martha says evenly. Judge Cole decided who visited. He was the judge even at his own table. Laughter ripples through the gallery before the gavel restores order. When Gavin takes the stand, the tension tightens like thread drawn too fast through fabric. Amelia approaches with the kind of patience that undoes men. Mr. Wright, did you attend your daughter's graduation? Silence. Which one? He asks finally, tone almost light. Any of them, she says. The pause that follows could fit a lifetime of absence. No. Did you ever visit the home you're now contesting? Not recently. Have you ever visited it? He exhales. No. The word is small, but it detonates in the quiet. Celeste shifts beside Dale, crossing and uncrossing her legs. I remember that tick. It used to mean she was calculating an exit. Mr. Wright, Amelia continues, where did your daughter attend law school? His eyes flick toward Celeste. University of South Carolina. Duke, Amelia corrects gently. Summa cum laude. She turns back to the bench. No further questions. The gallery murmurs. Judge Avery leans back, steepling his fingers. Let the record reflect the witness cannot recall fundamental details about his daughter. Dale doesn't object. He's too busy staring at his notes like they might rearrange themselves into salvation. During recess, I step into the hallway for air. The vending machine hums near the water fountain. Around the corner, voices, familiar ones, cut low and urgent. You pushed this too far, Celeste, my father's whisper again, sharper this time. Barrett was supposed to... Keep your voice down, she hisses. Thomas said he could handle it. I freeze. Thomas. The cousin. The name I circled last night. If it goes wrong, it's on you, Gavin says. You wanted this circus. Footsteps. I flatten against the wall as they pass, their reflection sliding across the polished marble like a mirage of the people they pretend to be. Inside, Amelia catches my expression. What? She mouths. I shake my head, later. For now, we let the current pull us where it will. The next witness is a neighbor, Mr. Peterson, who watched me shovel Franklin's walkway every winter. She'd drive down from Durham just to clear it herself, he says, baffled affection threading his tone. Then Dr. Williams, who taught me to drive when my parents forgot my 16th birthday. Then Professor Harmon from Duke, who testifies that I spent spring breaks doing Franklin's taxes instead of taking trips. Each voice builds a scaffold of presence around me, solid as oak. When the day's testimonies close, Judge Avery calls a brief recess before the next phase. The hall fills with murmurs, the tide of speculation. Amelia and I find a quiet bench near the stairwell. They're unraveling, she says softly. But Dale's too proud to concede. Expect fireworks. Barrett? I ask. New name, she says, frowning. Wasn't on our list. I tell her about the hallway, about Thomas. Her jaw tightens. That's the cousin, Reynolds. He'll try to slip in a witness to claim Franklin was confused. She taps her pen against her knee. We'll be ready. Evening paints the courthouse steps in bronze. Reporters cluster near the rail, hungry for quotes I won't give. I walk past them to my car, each flashbulb a brief, false sunrise. At home, the cake from last night waits under a dome on the counter, the kitchen smelling faintly of lemon and something sturdier, resolve, maybe. I cut one slice and eat standing up, fork clinking against the plate. Martha's note lies by the phone. Sunday dinner, no excuses. I write beneath it. Fold, don't stir. Then slide the paper into my case file. Tomorrow they'll bring in the surprise. The cousin will smuggle his friend in wearing a white coat and a practiced tremor. They'll talk about confusion, as if repetition can rewrite memory. But Franklin's legacy is built of records and rituals, of pot roast and statutes, of Sundays that never broke rhythm. Truth may take its time, but it doesn't forget the way home. As I rinse the plate, I see my reflection in the kitchen window. Same gray eyes, same steady line of jaw that June once traced with a flour-dusted hand. Stand tall, she'd said, like the hibiscus. Outside, night presses against the glass, but somewhere in the garden, a bloom still opens under porch light, stubborn and red as defiance. By the next morning, rumor has its own heartbeat. Reporters orbit the courthouse like gulls. A headline whisper passes from bailiff to clerk before we've even stepped through security. Plaintiffs to call new medical witness, someone murmurs. Amelia's jaw tightens. Unlisted, she says under her breath. Of course. Inside, the air carries static. Celeste sits prim and pastel beside Dale, pretending serenity, while her eyes dart like a gambler watching the wrong cards. Gavin leans back in his chair, mouth a thin line that can't decide between defiance and regret. Dale stands, smoothing his suit. Your Honor, the plaintiffs call Dr. James Barrett. The name falls like a coin in a fountain. Small, but the echo travels. Amelia's brow flicks once. Objection, she says immediately. Witness not disclosed. Dale spreads his hands in mock innocence. Recent discovery, Your Honor. Critical to our claim of undue influence. Judge Avery studies him, then nods. Limited testimony. Proceed carefully. A man in his 60s steps forward. Silver hair, wire-rimmed glasses, bow tie cinched too tight. He adjusts the glasses with his middle finger, not his index. A nervous tick that pulls at memory until it catches. The conference years ago. The handshake that smelled faintly of antiseptic and guilt. I inhale slowly. He wasn't Franklin's physician. He was Thomas Reynolds' partner, Celeste's cousin. Dale begins his script. Doctor, did you observe any signs that Judge Cole's mental faculties were compromised? Barrett hesitates, then, emboldened by the audience, nods. Yes, he seemed confused about his finances. He mentioned feeling pressured about estate decisions. He glances toward Celeste. She gives him the smallest smile, rehearsed and poisonous. Amelia's hand brushes my sleeve, a wordless signal. Patience. She rises only after Dale finishes, her movement deliberate as tide. Dr. Barrett, she begins, her southern vowels stretching silk thin, you said you saw Judge Cole twice. On what dates? March 12th and April 3rd of last year. Before those visits, had you ever treated him? No. So you weren't his primary physician? No, but when did you open your practice in Charleston? 8 months ago? And with whom did you open it? Dr. Thomas Reynolds. And Dr. Reynolds' relationship to Celeste Wright? Barrett's throat bobs. He's her cousin. A ripple moves through the gallery, the sound of recognition disguised as gossip. Amelia does not pause. I'd like to enter Exhibit 43, Judge Cole's complete medical records from his actual physician of 30 years, Dr. Harold Simmons. Dale bolts upright. Objection. These were page 211 of Discovery, Amelia interrupts. Filed 2 months ago. Judge Avery checks the file, sighs. Overruled. Proceed. Barrett's color drains as Amelia hands him the record. Please read paragraph 2 on page 4. His voice falters. Cognitive function remains sharp and consistent with previous evaluations. Patient demonstrates excellent recall. No evidence of confusion or impairment. Amelia inclines her head. Thank you. One more question. Did you prescribe this sedative? She slides another page forward. Barrett swallows. Yes. At whose request? Mrs. Wright expressed concern about her father's anxiety. Amelia tilts her head. Yet 1 week later, Dr. Simmons reported no anxiety symptoms. Curious, isn't it? Dale jumps up, muttering about relevance. The judge waves him down. The court finds it very relevant. Barrett stammers something about miscommunication, but the damage is complete. Celeste's perfect posture begins to sag, shoulders collapsing under invisible weight. Gavin stares at the floor. When Amelia returns to her seat, the tension in the room shifts like weather. I exhale only when the gavel taps. Cross-examination? Avery asks. Dale's voice is thin. No, Your Honor. Then Amelia stands again. The defense calls Valora Keene. Taking the stand feels like walking into the echo of every lesson Franklin ever taught me. I smooth my skirt, meet the clerk's eyes as I'm sworn in. The Bible's leather feels warm from the last hands that held it. Amelia approaches. Miss Keene, did you ever coerce or manipulate your grandfather to alter his will? No. My voice surprises me. Steady, low, anchored. He and my grandmother made the change together 10 years before his death. And were you aware of the will's contents? Yes. He believed in transparency. He wanted me to understand his reasoning. Which was? That family is defined by who stays, not by who shares blood. A hush ripples through the gallery, soft and electric. Dale rises for cross, gathering what's left of his confidence. Miss Keene, you benefited substantially from this inheritance, did you not? Yes. And you were aware that your grandparents' daughter, your mother, was effectively disinherited? I was aware. So you're telling this court that you never once attempted to influence Judge Cole? That's correct. He paces. You spent decades of Sundays with him. 32 years, I answer. If I wanted his money, I could have taken an easier path than learning probate law and earning his respect one Sunday dinner at a time. A quiet chuckle escapes someone in the gallery before the gavel restores decorum. Dale tries another tack. You're a prosecutor, Miss Keene. Surely you know perception matters. Yes, and so do facts. He opens his mouth, closes it again. No further questions. Amelia calls 2 more witnesses in quick succession. First, my boss, District Attorney Langston, who testifies to my ethics and record. Then Professor Montgomery from Duke, who describes Franklin auditing my thesis on judicial impartiality. Each voice builds a wall of integrity around me, brick by meticulous brick. Judge Avery leans forward. I knew Franklin Cole 30 years, he says quietly. He mentored me when I joined the bench. I never saw him make a hasty or confused decision. Dale objects, but even he sounds half-hearted. The judge notes the objection without looking up. During recess, I find the hallway again. Its echo longer now. At the far end, I hear my parents arguing near the water fountain. Gavin's hissed words. Celeste's brittle retort. Barrett was a disaster, he snaps. How was I supposed to know they'd have the records? She spits back. Thomas said, Gavin mocks. That's all I hear. Your whole family talks big but delivers nothing. They don't notice me as I step past, only their reflection scattering in the polished floor like smoke. Back inside, Amelia and Dale confer quietly with the judge. After a moment, Amelia leans toward me. They're offering to drop the suit if you pay their legal fees. No, I whisper. Good, she says. I already refused. When court resumes, the plaintiff's table looks like a photograph losing its focus. Celeste's cousin in the 3rd row avoids her gaze. Dale's tie is slightly crooked. Judge Avery's patience has worn to a thin thread. Any further witnesses? He asks. Dale shakes his head. Very well, Avery says. The court will hear closing arguments tomorrow morning. He raps the gavel once. We adjourn. The room exhales. Amelia stacks her folders, precise as ritual. Tomorrow, she says. We finish it. Outside, Celeste corners me by the elevator. Her perfume arrives first. Chanel and Old Theater. Valora, she says, voice stripped of courtroom polish. We should talk. About what? This division. She steps closer. You might have the law and money on your side, but I have your blood. The word lands heavy between us, old and tired. Would June want this? She whispers. She believed in family unity. I stare at the woman who used my grandmother's name like a prop. June believed in showing up, I say. You should try it sometime. Her eyes narrow, calculating. We could end this. 50-50 split. That's fair, isn't it? Fairness, I say, isn't arithmetic. Think about it, she presses. The community's watching. The pastor called me. People are talking. They'll stop when the truth gets louder, I say. The elevator dings behind me. Blood matters in this town, Valora. Always has. Then maybe it's time that changed, I answer, stepping inside. The doors slide shut on her coral lipstick, and all the years it tried to pretend love was inheritance. That night, I drive home under a salt silver moon. Martha has left pot roast warming in the oven, hibiscus blossoms cut and waiting in a glass by the window. I eat at the counter, the quiet thick but not empty. The letter from Franklin lies open beside me, his handwriting, steady as the tide. You inherit not because of blood, but because you stayed. Tomorrow, Amelia will read it into the record. Tomorrow, Celeste will watch the last card of her illusion turned face up. Tomorrow, the house that absence built will finally collapse into silence. I rinse my plate, set it to dry, and whisper to the night, stand tall, like the hibiscus. The morning of closing arguments tastes like rain. Clouds press low over Charleston. The courthouse steps slick with drizzle that turns every reflection into a ghost. Amelia and I arrive early. She carries one slim folder. I carry everything else. The years, the memories, the ache of wanting this over. Inside, the gallery hums with anticipation. Familiar faces fill the pews. Neighbors who brought casseroles when Franklin died, colleagues from the prosecutor's office, even Pastor Roberts in his threadbare suit. Reporters cluster at the back, pens poised like bayonets. Celeste and Gavin sit together at the plaintiff's table but look everywhere except at each other. Dale stands near them, rebuttoning his jacket with hands that have finally learned humility. Judge Avery calls the court to order. We will now hear closing statements. He gestures toward Dale. Mr. Dale, you may proceed. Dale approaches the bench, voice softened, rehearsed to sound paternal. Your Honor, this case transcends the legal technicalities. It is about blood, about the sacred bond between a parent and child. My client, Celeste Wright, seeks not fortune but restoration. Her rightful place in the family, her own father built. He turns toward the gallery. Charleston honors family above all. Traditions matter here. Are we to believe that a lifetime of motherhood can be erased by a mere signature? He gestures toward Celeste, whose tear-streaked face trembles at just the right moment. She may have made mistakes, he continues, but who among us hasn't? Should those missteps cost her everything? Should a document override the sanctity of blood? The silence afterward is thick. He nods gravely to the judge and returns to his seat, the performance complete. Then Amelia stands, carrying only Franklin's letter. She doesn't stride, she glides, the still center in a storm. Your Honor, she begins, this case has never been about blood. It's about choice. Her Georgia accent deepens, velvet over iron. We found this letter in Judge Cole's desk, dated 2 weeks before his death. With the court's permission, I'll read it. Avery nods. The courtroom leans forward. Her voice finds the rhythm of truth. Valora, you inherit not because of blood, but because you stayed. When Sunday dinners became difficult after June passed, you never missed one. When law school demanded your weekends, you studied at my kitchen table. When Celeste and Gavin asked for money, over 22 years, and $845,000, they never once asked about you. Celeste's head drops. Amelia continues. A parent isn't defined by biology, but by presence. I choose you as my heir because you chose me as your family. Every Sunday, every holiday, every ordinary day when showing up mattered. She folds the letter with care, placing it on the exhibit table like a benediction. Evidence, not emotion, should guide this court, she says. The evidence shows financial support to the plaintiffs and decades of absence from their lives. It shows Franklin Cole's clarity of mind until his final week. It shows 32 years of Sundays when Valora stayed while her parents did not. She turns toward Celeste and Gavin. What kind of parents sue their own child after abandoning her? What kind of mother preaches family unity after decades of absence? Blood is not proof of love. Presence is. The room is silent, except for the faint hum of the ceiling fan. Amelia nods to Judge Avery. No further argument, Your Honor. The judge removes his glasses, polishing them with his handkerchief, the same deliberate ritual Franklin once performed before speaking a verdict. Having reviewed all evidence and testimony, he begins, the court finds that Judge Franklin Cole executed his will with full mental capacity and deliberate intention. He looks directly at Celeste and Gavin. The plaintiffs have failed to provide credible evidence of undue influence or diminished capacity. The claim is dismissed with prejudice. He pauses, then adds, furthermore, the plaintiffs shall pay the defendants reasonable attorney fees as permitted under state law. The gavel falls, sharp, final. For a moment no one moves. Then whispers ripple through the gallery like wind through tall grass. Amelia exhales softly beside me. It's over, she whispers. I nod, but the victory feels muted, a quiet vindication rather than triumph. Celeste rises first. Her coral lipstick has faded, leaving the faint outline of performance without conviction. Gavin follows, face unreadable. For a flicker of a second, I see relief cross his features, as if losing means freedom. They leave through the side door without looking back. Amelia gathers her papers, sliding Franklin's letter carefully into the folder. Your grandfather would be proud, she says. I manage a smile, thin and tired. He'd tell us to clean the record books and move on. Then let's do that. Outside, the drizzle has become sunlight scattered across wet stone. Reporters shout questions, but I walk past them. The courthouse columns glow pale gold, the city breathing again after the storm. I stop at the garden gate where June's hibiscus still bloom, their crimson petals vivid against rain-dark soil. I touch one gently. The texture is silk over strength, exactly how she lived. We did it, I whisper. Truth won. The flower trembles in the breeze, and I can almost hear her answer, fold, don't stir. That evening, the house is quiet except for the tick of the grandfather clock. Martha sets a plate before me, pot roast, perfectly tender. You look like your grandfather when he'd won a case, she says. Not happy, just settled. It's done, I reply. She nods. Then eat. You can feel everything else later. After she leaves, I sit alone at the kitchen table, the same table where Franklin once read law journals and June braided my hair. The air smells faintly of lemon from the cake cooling on the counter. I take one slice, the sweetness grounding me. The phone vibrates with messages I ignore. The silence is fuller than sound. I think of the courtroom, of Amelia's calm, of the way justice sometimes feels less like victory and more like release. Through the window, dusk deepens. The hibiscus outside catch the last light, glowing like embers that refuse to die. I lift my glass in a quiet toast to the people who taught me what staying means. Tomorrow will bring headlines and gossip, opinions and noise. But tonight belongs to those who stayed. A year has passed since the verdict, and Charleston has learned to say my name with a different kind of weight. Judge Valora Keene. The brass plate on my office door gleams each morning under courthouse light, and still, sometimes, I pause before walking in. Not out of disbelief, but reverence for everything it costs to stand here. The courtroom feels smaller from the bench. Maybe it's perspective, maybe it's memory. I've traded the defense table for the gavel, but the echoes remain the same, wood creaking under truth, hearts breaking under evidence. Case number 24307, my clerk announces. Reynolds v. Reynolds. The coincidence of the name pulls a small, ironic smile from me. Another family fractured by inheritance. Another daughter accused of manipulation. Another mother insisting that blood should outweigh choice. The attorneys posture as they always do. The plaintiff's counsel speaks first, smooth, sentimental, certain. The defense attorney rises, younger, nervous, eyes full of something I once carried too, a desperate hope to be believed. I listen, pen poised. The mother claims her daughter turned her father against her. The daughter sits still, jaw set, hands folded. The story plays out like a mirror held too close to my own past. When the plaintiff's lawyer says, she alienated her parent, the words scrape like old scar tissue. Objection, the defense says softly. Prejudicial characterization. Sustained, I reply, my tone even, Franklin's cadence borrowed through muscle memory. Counsel, restrict yourself to facts. By the time closing arguments finish, I've already decided the ruling, but not the words. I take a moment before speaking, letting silence settle, the way Franklin used to. Sometimes, I say, the law appears complicated, but truth rarely is. Evidence, not sentiment, determines family in this courtroom. Judgment for the defendant. A small gasp, relief, tears. I strike the gavel once, firm but not cruel. Court is adjourned. When the room empties, I retreat to chambers, the walls lined with Franklin's old legal volumes. His penciled notes still crowd the margins, tiny, impatient reminders that ethics aren't situational. I run my hand along the spines and find the worn green cover of June's gardening journal tucked beside them, right where I placed it months ago. My phone buzzes, a text from Martha, hibiscus blooming like mad. Bring shears. I smile, grab my coat, and drive home beneath a sky breaking open with light. The house hasn't changed much. The porch swing creaks. The kitchen still smells faintly of lemon and old wood polish. On the counter, a bundt cake waits under glass, Martha's handwriting on a note beside it. Fold, don't stir. Some traditions shouldn't end, she says when I thank her, not even when the people who started them are gone. She leaves soon after, humming June's favorite hymn as she goes. I slice a piece of cake, place it in wax paper, and wrap it tight. Dusk is settling when I reach Magnolia Cemetery. The air hums with cicadas. Spanish moss sways like slow applause. I kneel between the two headstones, Franklin Cole and June Cole, and lay fresh hibiscus blossoms across their names, crimson against marble. I kept my promise, I whisper. I protected what you built. A breeze stirs the petals, carrying the faint scent of sugar and citrus. I unwrap the slice of cake and set it beside June's stone. It's perfect this time, I tell her. Just the right fold. The wind shifts again, and a cardinal lands on a low branch nearby, brilliant red against the dying light. June used to say, when a cardinal visits, someone you love is checking on you. Hi, Grandma, I breathe. For a moment, grief and gratitude share the same pulse. I think of the Reynolds daughter, of all the women who have stood where I once did, alone, accused, yet anchored by truth. The legacy I inherited wasn't land or money. It was integrity. It was presence. I rise slowly, brushing grass from my skirt. The sky burns coral at the horizon, the same color as Celeste's old lipstick, but tonight it feels different, like closure, not conflict. Family is who stays, I whisper, and the words float upward through the oaks, through the gold-edged light, until they belong to the air itself. When I turn toward home, the first streetlights blink on, one after another, as if the city is quietly lighting my way back. Tomorrow will bring new cases, new names, new fractures to mend, but tonight there is peace. Not the kind that comes from silence, but the kind that comes from knowing you did not bend when it mattered most. I lock the courthouse of my heart behind me and walk toward the car. The world smells of wet earth and lemon, and somewhere, I swear I hear Franklin's voice in the wind. Justice isn't revenge, it's the restoration of truth. I smile into the dark, and truth, I whisper, is who we are when everyone else walks away. Then I drive home through the sleeping streets of Charleston, headlights sweeping over hibiscus still in bloom.